Welcome to the Networking Star podcast, where I explore the journeys and examples of top entrepreneurs and thought leaders. I'm your host, Jeffrey Boyle, and together I'm going to today go into a very interesting world that from a really interesting person, Jessica Burgio. She's an entrepreneur, she's a podcaster, and I like these next ones. Not only is she an author, but she is a hype girl and a space holder. And that last one I'm going to have her explain because it was so interesting to me. But she's also the creator of the Start Your Damn podcast course. So Jessica, thanks for being with us on Networking Star.
Thank you for having me.
So the first question I asked you, which was interesting to me, and I loved your answer as we were talking beforehand, is what does that mean to be a space holder?
I think it probably means something different to everybody. But for me personally, being able to hold a sacred space for someone to feel seen and heard is very important. I think we all at our core want to be seen and heard. And if you have a podcast, you definitely want to be heard. And someone listening on the other side wants to be seen through your words. They want to understand themselves in your stories. That's why people tune in and listen. That's why people watch what other people are doing. That's why people love social media. And if we can feel connected, I think you're holding some sort of space for someone. And after 22 years in the industry, I realized that was a superpower I had developed over the years. And not only were my clients coming to me for the outside beauty, it was the internal space that was being held while we shared that time together.
So you started your podcast talking to people in the beauty industry. That's what you're explaining. And so obviously that's something you've done for a while. Explain to me how your podcast has kind of morphed and why it makes you so happy to do it that way.
Yeah. So I think during COVID, when we were closed, that's when the podcast was born. I finally was out of excuses, which generally are for most of us time and money, right? Don't have the time, don't have the money to do X, Y, Z. And a podcast has been in my heart for a couple of years at this point. So much so I have a little microphone on a stand. I don't even use it because it was sitting in the closet for so long. And I use that kind of as a trophy now, looking at it, that I finally started my damn podcast. And it was based out of frustration and anger because we were closed during that time in an industry where we were unsure if and when we would reopen. And so I felt like I had enough of a platform and a small enough of a community and audience that if I started the podcast, it would help other people feel seen and heard, which is, like we just shared, at the core of what I love to be able to do. And so I started interviewing people in the industry whose salons were closed, whose livelihoods were completely shut down. And that's how the conversation started. And the original name for the podcast was Beauty Inspires Beauty, which was a networking group I had started for my industry to bring us together. Little did I know that we would need each other even more so in the time that we did. So that's how it started.
So you started a podcast because of that, but how is it that you have started to expand and obviously you, as I've gone to your page and that's where we met, you have a lot of interesting insights beyond just the beauty. Explain to me how the inner part of it, because that's obviously that's where it's not just networking, but where people go for not just hair therapy, as you're saying, but also inner therapy.
Right. So I think being an entrepreneur isn't necessarily something that people think of when they get into the beauty industry. They may think of, I want to create my own schedule. I want to have freedom with who I get to see it and all of that. But I think the term accidental entrepreneur kind of fell in my lap over the last couple of years through a mentor of mine, Chris Harder, shout out to him. And he launched a mastermind called Fast Foundations about 5 years ago. And because I was in his world and his wife's world, my backstory is also in fitness and health. I knew at that time that my career was doing really well, but I also knew there was a lot that I didn't know as far as entrepreneurship and possibly moving into the online space. And so I fully invested in that mastermind back in early 2019, and everything's kind of been a blur ever since. But that key phrase, accidental entrepreneur, stuck with me and resonated so much so that I figured it would with my industry as well. And so when I started to share things about my entrepreneurial journey, that's how things kind of started to unlock. And I ended up coaching inside that mastermind, which then unlocked different pieces that I had in myself, and that curiosity to maybe step into leadership and coach other people in the industry to that six-figure mindset, to living that life of, worthiness and wealth, and looking at the career as more than just a job. So that was kind of that first piece of that.
You talked about just right there, worthiness and wealth. Why is it that, perhaps your mind has been expanded just because of your mentors, and please explain just a little bit about how your mind was expanded by going on a much bigger podcast than yours. But how does that worthiness and wealth, as you start to coach people, that mindset, how is it that you've seen that you have the ability to impact people's abilities to improve themselves just by feeling worthy of it?
Well, like anything, watching someone else do it before you allows you to see that it's possible. And so for me, watching my mentors like Chris Harder and Lori Harder start their podcast, I'll use that as an example. I saw what was possible by them dedicating and showing up time in this modality of speaking like this. So, watching other people was always the way that I saw myself being able to do something like that. So I knew that if I wanted to coach or teach to people and help them understand how they could make more money in this industry, I needed to show what I was doing. I needed to talk about how I was leveling up my life, my business, the things I was doing on the back end to actually bring in that type of clientele, to then decide I wanted to charge more or to create a space and an experience that would allow for me to charge at the level I was charging. So there's a lot of, if we think of everything from your local barbershop or beauty shop all the way up to a high-end salon or spa where you go in and you just expect to pay $300-$400 for a service, there's a huge gap between one and the other. And so why is that? Where is that coming from? Why do some people have massive success in certain industries and some don't? And it all comes back down to that mindset piece, that worthiness piece, that belief that it's possible for you. And so I really started to go down that rabbit hole to discover what that looks like and feels like for myself personally. And then I also saw it playing a huge role in people's lives, why they weren't calling in the type of wealth and lifestyle that they wanted based off of their beliefs.
That's pretty interesting. With, you started it to get you through COVID. It expanded your mind to be able to be more successful, to help people who were suffering the same way that you were within COVID. And now you've continued to expand it into a lot of areas. Podcasts do take take a turn. I've got a podcast teacher on my podcast who does her own podcast, who learns from other podcasts. I do a lot of this simply because I just love networking with people, and that's why I've kept the name of Networking Star that I used a long time ago. But what do you, if you could really teach somebody or hope that they learn from your course on doing a podcast, what would you want people to take from that course?
So the course was created because someone like me took 2 years to start, because I'm such a creative. I'm an ideas person. I think of something and I'm like, yeah, let's do that. Well, but where's the roadmap? Where's the framework? Where's the step 1, 2, 3? Like, I want to know how to get there before I'm going to go all in on something. And a couple of years ago, there weren't a lot of, highly comprehensive courses that would walk you through things. There was your basic, pick a name, pick your cover art, upload it to this, do that, start with a couple episodes, but there was no real strategy or framework around how to go from idea to launch and then grow, scale, and maybe monetize it if that's what you want to do with it. And I knew that if I was struggling that much, that there were probably so many other people who are curious about podcasting who would love to have a framework like that. Not everybody at the end of the day wants to edit their own show and do all of the things that come along with hosting a top-rated podcast, but here is what it looks like. And so much so, I'll teach you in this course that if you will then hire things out in the future, if you do decide to start your podcast, you'll know exactly what to hire for. Because that's also a piece I got stuck with early on, was hiring out things that I didn't know how to hire for. So expectations on deliverables, on things that would help grow the show, things that weren't really necessary. I've done it all, sideways, backwards. I've hired this person, this side person. I've taken this person's advice. And so I knew after a couple of years and the team I currently have that we had to create something substantial that was better than what was on the market right now for people to actually start their damn podcast.
So other than that, which is to start, which is just the name of it, what is the one secret, without giving all the secrets away that come in your course, what's the one secret that you would want a new podcaster or aspiring podcaster to know?
I really wish there was a one sentence or one word answer for this. There isn't. It's ask for help, get support, and find someone who's gone before you and don't be afraid to ask for the help, pay for the help, or somehow use the help, because I think we're always the only one who gets in our own way.
Yeah. Well, and I think that actually the name of your course says it all. Start. It just start.
Yes.
It's been funny. I explained to you that this Networking Star podcast, before I had some of the top CEOs 10 years ago when I started doing it, and YouTube just shut it down because one of my employees uploaded a video about the Olympics, and without a warning, they struck down this channel that had on YouTube that had millions of views on it. It was very discouraging. And and I moved on with a couple of different businesses, but I just remember thinking, gosh, I really enjoyed that. It's like, when would I normally reach out to Jessica without just this really fun ability to be able to network and to communicate? What has been probably for you the most rewarding part of you going out and networking with other podcasters, or just meeting unique people on your podcast?
Well, just like you said, the ability to almost have an invitation into somebody's world, right? Like when you have a podcast, it is your leverage wand into someone else's world, even if it's just for a moment in the DMs, right? But oftentimes people want to help people. So you'll be surprised at who will say yes to being on your show, even if you're a brand new podcaster. People want to innately help other people. So I found that I rarely get a no if I ask a guest to be on the show. And now at the place I'm at now, which probably isn't too much further than the average podcaster, people are reaching out to me, not only asking me to be on their show, but asking if they can be a guest on my show. So you build this really intimate relationship with people you would, like you said, never have otherwise met. You and I probably would have never met in real life. We would have never had more than a 2-second conversation, or maybe I would have scrolled your page. But now we get to go into this conversation, and there gets to be maybe tens of thousands of people who take something away that's going to help them today, tomorrow, or in their life somehow. So the impact around that alone is enough for me to keep showing up and stay dedicated to this.
You said something a little bit, I'll kind of change gears a little bit, that kind of piqued my interest, that you're heavily involved with fitness. My background is entrepreneur, law student, law clerk for a federal judge, then back into business. And then I do podcasting because it kind of makes me happy to meet people. But I'm also a personal trainer. And I think that as an entrepreneur without fitness, I would probably go crazy. We talk, a lot of us, and it sounds to me that your podcast, from what I've heard on it, and you're wanting to help people and improve people. How, with your background in fitness, have you seen the direct correlation between physical progress and mental progress?
It's everything. I feel like any high level functioning, healthy mindset human has some sort of movement practice in their life. In some ways it's moving meditation for a lot of people. And if we go back to what we were talking about earlier with being a space holder, you take on a lot of energy with other people. If you work in a service-based industry or even a product-based, if you're connected with people, you're taking on other people's energy. So how do we empty that tank in order to then show up each and every day fresh? For me, it's working out every morning, whether it's a walk, whether it's yoga, or whether it's like a full-blown gym workout. That time to pour into myself actually empties the tank enough to then let it be refilled the next day. And so in my early 20s, I discovered bodybuilding by way of a girl I was working with. She was just getting in really good shape. I started asking her some questions. She said, "Yeah, you want to come to the gym with me?" I said, "Sure." And so that was my start around competitive bodybuilding, and then getting my certification and personal training alongside with doing hair. So the clients I had in the chair at the salon became my clients in the gym. And it was a beautiful evolution of being able to do more things that I love to help more people. So one thing started on the outside, right? Beauty with the hair, and then it moved internally and physically. So it's always been something that I just have been attracted to.
It's pretty interesting. What you're talking about with that is how you're able to mix the different types of businesses, but you're, more than anything, you're just in the business of helping people progress and improve. And even your podcast is just another stack on top of that, I guess, that value stack that you give people. As it relates to fitness, we had a person on, I had a person on this, and the podcast about to come out, who is the body double for The Rock in his movies. and he's actually my brother-in-law, and I've known him for years. And if you listen to The Rock, that's his time, his meditation time, as you've said that. And as entrepreneurs and just people, there's the amount of stress that we have now. He talks about that as his sacred time to dedicate to himself during that. And I think as an entrepreneur, I probably would have gone crazy about 15 years ago without just that, as you called it, a form of moving meditation. I just don't know if I don't know where I'd be. Maybe I'd have a facial tic or something like that from the stress that comes from it. What do you tell people when they're first starting to do it? Because you have this wonderful, I guess, this product stack to be able to help them beautify themselves with a couple of your businesses. What do you tell that person that just is struggling to feel good about themselves because of external judgments that they place on themselves?
That's a tough one. I think those judgments come from somewhere. And that's where we go back all the way to our childhood of these conditioned beliefs or these thoughts that were kind of pushed on us. An incident happened. We then took that story and made it real. And that's the belief we have about ourselves. And I recently did a podcast around behaviors versus beliefs. And it said that our beliefs are a reflection, or our behaviors are a reflection of our beliefs. And so if that's true, can we start to act out of character with our behaviors so that then maybe we can change our beliefs about ourselves? So I shared just about making yourself go for a walk or making yourself go to the gym when you really don't believe that you should be there or that you're ready for it, right? But your behaviors are teaching you that you can believe that maybe you are worthy of being there. So you get up, you go to the gym, you walk on the treadmill, but you're too scared to do anything at the gym. You watch somebody do a few exercises. So you think to yourself, okay, tomorrow I'm going to come and I'm going to copy exactly what they did. People will go to a personal trainer and they will walk through a brand new gym and they will be easily intimidated and say, when I get in shape, then I will join this gym. When I get my business in order, I will then hire a coach. When I figure out what I'm doing with my life, then I will start a podcast. I promise you, if you just start, you will then get the clarity. And with clarity comes confidence. And with confidence comes action. And then you've got your dedication rolled in there and all of that. And that's how you and I show up each and every day. It's not that we are motivated or that we really always want to be here. The dedication to showing up for ourselves and for other people and that consistency piece, like I want to make myself proud, but in the meantime, I also want to help other people. So we always have to have our own deep rooted why. So if you are struggling right now with showing up for yourself in any way, that's something that you need to sit with. But again, asking for help or speaking about the things that are coming up for you, podcasting is a great platform to share those, because I promise you, whatever you're struggling with, you are not alone. So to whoever's listening to this right now, if you are willing to put yourself out there just even a little bit and share what you're going through, that can be the biggest catalyst for your personal growth. But then also in you being brave enough to share part of your story, you can help other people. And so often when people come to me and they're like, I really want to start a podcast, but I'm not quite sure. Like maybe they're like us and they have 10 different things they love to do, right? Fitness, podcast, business, all these things. They're like, I don't know what to talk about. I don't know what to do. Start with the things that really matter the most to you. And I guarantee you'll connect authentically with somebody enough so that then you can share all the other cool pieces of your life.
You know, it's interesting as I listen to you, there's a key word that just continues to come back. It's start. So it doesn't matter if it's exercise. It doesn't matter if it's a podcast. It doesn't matter if it's some type of, just pursuing some interest that you have. You have a very key word that is a part of all of what you're doing, which is start. And I think that's really beautiful, because so many times, as you've talked about the procrastination, I'd been in high school sports, all that type of stuff. And then as I started my career, I found myself traveling all across the world. I found myself 35 years old. I'm 51 now. And I hired a personal trainer and I passed out on leg day with her. And I was so embarrassed that I didn't come back. And I basically put my personal fitness journey off for 6 months before I started just doing it to P90X. And then that led to the next thing. Actually, that's not true. I did it on Wii Fit, the Nintendo Wii Fit. And that's what got it back to it. At this point now, I have complete control, I think, of my fitness and the understanding of it. And what I love about a lot of what you're saying is that when you understand the principles of fitness, it's one of the easiest things to get a transformation, right? When you understand just your body a little bit better and the different things that you can do, and with a personal physical transformation, some people say that's just not true. How would you say something so crazy? Most people just aren't following the laws of the body. And once you start to follow those and you have this personal transformation, it can lead to the confidence to get so much more done. Jessica, you really have a wonderful approach, and you have just this value stack that I can see with it. Please tell people how to find you, and then just give me your last inspiration on what people need to do to find success in their personal and their professional, and really what you can do to help them do that.
Well, there's a few ways. So thank you for allowing me the space to share with your audience and your community, because to me, that struggle piece and that getting out of your own way is the first place to start, no matter what it is that you want to create in this world, no matter what it is you want to do, be, or have, who you want to attract into your life. You have to first understand who you are. And I think we're so inundated with the outside world, and we're being told the things we should want, the dreams we should have, that we can't hear ourselves. And so if you get into movie meditations, like going for a walk without your podcast on, without music on, I call those clarity walks, start there. If it's just calling someone so you can talk things through to help you understand what you're going through, make sure you share it with the right type of people. If you don't have those people, that's where podcasts like ours come in to help you. And that's you and I, we're holding that space for people that may not have somebody else to talk about their struggles with. So that's why I'm very vulnerable with sharing the things that I've gone through. And the podcast piece, I 22 years in the beauty industry, never did I see myself A, as a podcaster, truth be told, and B, never as someone to create a course to help people start a podcast. But there was a piece missing in all of that I also want to be a part of other people's success. Not just physically, not just emotionally, but so much so that I want to be in your business helping you get your podcast out into the world. And so my partner and I created a company called UNSCRIPTED, where we are a full podcast service agency. We help you not only start your damn podcast, but grow it, stick with it, create content that's impactful and meaningful, and really help you go somewhere with it. It can just be a hobby, like you were talking about, something we both love to do. It does feel like a hobby, but also it can be a career. If you want to use this as a platform to grow into whatever other avenue you want, it's the best way to connect your voice to your brand, whether it's your personal brand or your business brand. Do you need a podcast to have a brand? No. Is it helpful? Yes, because it allows people to listen to you, which is something that not a lot of people, you can't take that. You can take us anywhere with you. You can't take the TV show with you all the time. You can't always take everything, but audio you can take with you. It travels well. And you can always lean on it or listen to the episode again if you need help. So you can hang out with me on Instagram at Jessica Burgio. If you're interested in the podcast course, it's there for you. It's called Start Your Damn Podcast. And then also the agency is for people not only who want to start a podcast, but maybe you've started, maybe you're like us and you've been doing everything yourself and you're ready for some help and somebody to kind of move along through this with you, because podcasting can often feel like a little bit of a lonely journey, even if you have guests on your show. So that's why I knew this was something I could help people with. And we fully stepped into that, sharing that space and being the space holders for those people too.
Oh, love it. So start your damn podcast. It's not a ask, it's a command. And I think that sometimes new people need to be told, come on, you can do this. It's really cool. So thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
Bye.